The butterfly represents the talent, the thoughtfulness, and the beauty within the caterpillar. But having a harsh outlook on life, the caterpillar sees the butterfly as weak and figures out a way to pimp it to his own benefits. The caterpillar goes to work on the cocoon, which institutionalizes him. He can no longer see past his own thoughts. He's trapped.
When Kendrick Lamar released To Pimp a Butterfly in 2015, he was fresh off the breakout success of Good Kid, M.A.A.D City. He'd crossed over from the violence of his Compton upbringing into a new world of fame, wealth, and influence. It was all he had ever dreamed of. So why wasn't it enough? Kendrick stood on this staircase of his own ambition and looked back at all the steps he'd climbed. He'd become a star, but at what cost? And who or what was he truly serving? His community or the industry? Did his lust for greatness make him happy, fulfilled? For each perceived accomplishment on this staircase, wealth, legacy, influence, Kendrick discovered an equal and opposite cost: exploitation, depression, guilt, burnout. But maybe, he thinks, once he reaches the top of this staircase, reaches yet greater dreams and aspirations, then he will be happy. But the staircase has no end. This is the great paradox of freedom in today's world. We can do anything. Everything under the sun is ours for the taking. We need only reach out and seize it. South Korean-born German philosopher Byung-Chul Han describes this as positive power, a power that says, yes, you can, rather than the negative power of slavery or the feudal system, which said, no, you can't. He says that we have created an achievement society that fetishizes accomplishments and praises those who grind and bleed for their ambition. But it goes deeper than that. By creating this achievement society in which prohibitions, commandments, and the law are replaced by projects, initiatives, and motivation, we have by extension created a culture of self-exploitation, a society of work in which the master himself has become a laboring slave. To Pimp a Butterfly reflects this self-exploitation through the analogy of the butterfly and the caterpillar, and films like Whiplash, Black Swan, and shows like The Bear also grapple with the way that we exploit our own talent and how it leads to our spiritual, psychological, and emotional destruction. Before we go any further, I want to reiterate the actual dictionary definition of ambition so you don't get the wrong idea of what I'm trying to say. Ambition, an ardent desire for rank, fame, or power. To me, this definition implies greed and an ego-driven focus on the results of your actions, rather than the initial calling that led you towards them. This is what I refer to when I say that ambition is a staircase. But there is a way to escape the staircase. In Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly, and even more poignantly in Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, it involves self-love, self-acceptance, and letting go of expectation. On this path, one rejects the staircase altogether and is content with the step that one is on. One reconnects with intention, cultivates mindfulness, and moves beyond the shallow concepts of success that society tells us are acceptable. Greetings, everybody. Coming to you live from Hong Kong. Finally found some space where there's not loads of people, which is doing some good things for my mental. Anyways, just wanted to thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're not already. All that good stuff. Leave a like. All that stuff is helpful more than you know to the channel. Anyways, let's get going. The American dream is perhaps the most brilliant lie ever created. Each and every one of us can achieve the greatest heights, so long as you work relentlessly for it. America, and by extension the neoliberal capitalist world, understands that, quote, the achievement subject is faster and more productive than the obedience subject. For minority communities, this intention is especially insidious. Because wealth and status are indicative of our self-worth, any successes must be flaunted. It's how you get the rap game's glorification of brand name clothes, jewelry, cars, and women, which Kendrick examines on To Pimp a Butterfly's opening track. Hit me! Playing a caricature of himself as a young, naive rap star, Kendrick boasts of all the material things he's going to buy once he gets signed. I'ma buy a brand new Caddy on Bows, truck the hood up 2 times, do slow. But the second verse shows his self-awareness of how this lifestyle is doing nothing but serving Uncle Sam, the album's antagonist and a metaphor for the American dream. Uncle Sam and later Lucy represent what Byung-Chul Han calls the violence of positivity. Uncle Sam says yes you can to successful black artists, encouraging their spending and consumption too much and enough both we know, because it ultimately benefits him. Because you make me live forever, baby, count it all together, baby. This line, what you want, you a house, you a car, 40 acres and a mule, a piano, a guitar, anything, say my name is Uncle Sam on your dog. Compares Kendrick's newfound wealth to the land given to former slaves during Reconstruction, which was then taken back after Lincoln was assassinated, something Kendrick goes on to fear happening to him in To Pimp a Butterfly's follow-up, Damn. What is an advisor? Somebody that's holding my checks just to fuck me over and put my finances in debt. The interlude following this track introduces one of Uncle Sam's prostitutes, who acts as a stereotypical gold-digging woman, only interested in Kendrick's potential to benefit her materialism. Kendrick unleashes a barrage on this character, telling her, "This dick ain't free," followed by several assertions of how far he's come. You looking at me like it ain't a receipt, like I never made ends meet, eating your leftovers and raw meat. And of course, as a symbol for the American dream, Kendrick has to remind her, oh, America, you bad bitch, I picked cotton and made you rich, now my dick ain't free. The great irony of this flexing is that if Kendrick's dick ain't free, that means it can be bought. And Uncle Sam, of course, is fat enough to pay the price. Let's talk about the caterpillar and the butterfly. If you'll remember from the intro, the caterpillar is a prisoner to the streets that conceived it, consuming everything and building walls to protect itself. The butterfly represents the talent, thoughtfulness, and beauty within the caterpillar, but the caterpillar sees it as weak and works out ways to pimp it to its own benefit. We all have a butterfly and a caterpillar within us. Our caterpillar may not have the violent upbringing of Kendrick's, but that doesn't mean it can't pimp our butterfly. Quote, in this society of compulsion, everyone carries a work camp inside. This labor camp is defined by the fact that one is simultaneously prisoner and guard, victim and perpetrator. One exploits oneself. One of the most striking bars in To Pimp a Butterfly, to me, is the chorus of Wesley's Theory. It describes how Kendrick's love for hip-hop has warped into something unrecognizable. But I just wanna fuck. A lust for fame, wealth, and influence. He describes music as his first girlfriend and presents a question that permeates so many of our minds. How can I pimp my talent and passion into financial success? I obviously have no goalposts for the racial and socioeconomic exploitation that Kendrick speaks on, but I do strongly relate to this other underlying message. Lately, I feel I've been too focused on the results of my creative pursuits, rather than the reason I started doing them in the first place. I'm talking about this very YouTube channel. I found some early success with my videos, and I fell into the trap of ambition. Wouldn't it be great, I thought, if I could turn this into a career? I would be able to express my creativity and make money on it in the process, something rarely achievable in today's world. This channel morphed from an outlet of creative expression and a celebration of art into a drive to please the all-knowing algorithm. Because this was no longer a passion project. It was now tied to my financial future and career. And by the way, my obsession with analytics and all that nonsense didn't even work. I bring this up only to say, ambition can consume your life if you let it. Just as Kendrick's ambition threatened to consume him, so too can ambition and greed seep into your brain and guide your actions down a path removed from intention. Which brings us to Whiplash. The first scene of Whiplash introduces Andrew, a bright-eyed, talented young drummer, passionate and eager to learn, who gets noticed by Fletcher, an abusive, manipulative teacher and all-around asshole. Andrew worships drumming and aspires to be one of the greats, the next Buddy Rich.
And ultimately, I mean, whether it's hope or despair, the entire thing is just insecurity. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like everything is just motivated by Andrew as someone who craves approval. So when he's the perfect victim for Fletcher in a way, because as soon as Fletcher dangles a carrot, Andrew goes wide-eyed.
Fletcher takes advantage of this insecurity and passion to essentially turn Andrew into an image of himself. Andrew's bright eyes slowly deaden until he becomes a shell of his former self, driven to irrationality by a combination of abuse and ambition.
Andrew winds up carrying out exactly the same, without even realizing it, subconsciously carrying out exactly the same behavior that's been targeted at him onto not just Nicole, but his dad and everyone who cares about him.
Andrew's passion for drumming morphs into a reckless pursuit of glory, and he pushes away and otherwise alienates everyone close to him.
I'd rather die drunk, broke at 34 and have people at a dinner table talk about me than live to be rich and sober at 90 and nobody remember who I was. This is why I don't think that we should be together. And I've thought about it a lot, and this is what's gonna happen. Okay, I'm gonna keep pursuing what I'm pursuing. And because I'm doing that, it's gonna take up more and more of my time, and I'm not gonna be able to spend as much time with you. And even when I do spend time with you, I'm gonna be thinking about drumming. I'm gonna be thinking about jazz music and my charts and all that, and because of that, you're gonna start to resent me. And you're gonna tell me to ease up on the drumming, spend more time with you because you're not feeling important. And I'm not gonna be able to do that. And really, I'm just gonna start to resent you for even asking me to stop drumming. And we're just gonna start to hate each other. And it's gonna be ugly. And so for those reasons, I'd rather just, break it off clean.
In this pursuit lies the central question of Whiplash. Where is the line between greatness and humanity? Between determination and insanity? Quote, "The more his life is now his product, the more he is separated from his life." So we come to the height of ambition in these two stories. Kendrick has pimped his butterfly to the delight of Uncle Sam, and Andrew has earned a spot as the lead drummer in the most prestigious jazz school in America, quite literally through blood, sweat, and tears. And just like life, when selfish desires and thoughtless pursuits drive your behavior, success is fleeting. Let's start with Kendrick. After pimping his success for material gains, he hits rock bottom on the song You, a heart-wrenching, raw, powerful song in which he drunkenly confesses his deepest inner demons: depression, survivor's guilt, suicidal thoughts, shame for his materialism and for not reaching those close to him. He talks on his 3 homies back in Compton that died while he was out on tour.
It's real, man. 3 of my homeboys that summertime, was murdered. Close ones too, not just somebody that I hear about. These people I grow up with. So it all psychologically it messes your brain up because you live in this life, you know what I'm saying? But you still have to face realities of this. I got to get back off that tour bus and go to these funerals, and go talk to my moms and talk to their aunties, the kids that lost their lives.
and describes his own troubles, however real, as a burden.
But your trials and tribulations a burden. Everyone felt it, everyone heard it.
To Mark Fisher, we privatize depression in our society in a way that's honestly ridiculous from any other perspective. Because what's often the experience of somebody who's struggling with depression in a neoliberal society? They're told in so many words, look, that sucks and all, I get it. But this is a you problem you're dealing with. You have a chemical imbalance. You have a family history with this. You need to pull yourself together, get off the couch, force yourself to go for a run, drag yourself into one of these professionals that'll prescribe you these pills you can take to bring your brain chemistry back to normal. You owe it to the people around you to work harder on your depression.
This song is a key development in Kendrick as an artist. While he's always been brutally honest, exploring these depths of his psyche in such a public forum was pretty much unthinkable in the rap game. You can talk about his lyrical gymnastics and incredible production all you want, all valid points, but to me, the realness and authenticity is what sets apart Kendrick from anyone who's come before or after him. From an outside perspective, we can see how absurd it is to place blame and shame on yourself for factors beyond your control. However, we all do it. Often, we are our own harshest critics, and Kendrick certainly falls into that category. While Kendrick will eventually reach a climactic moment of salvation on the track I, Andrew Naiman never does. His is more a climactic moment of destruction. I can't really point to who broke Andrew, Fletcher or himself. It takes two to tango, as they say, and Andrew definitely fed into this relentless pursuit of perfection in order to become one of the greats.
Because I want to be great.
And you're not.
I want to be one of the greats.
Andrew's story coalesces in a wave of frantic energy when, before a competition, the bus he's taking gets a flat tire. He rents a car and, in his scattered state of mind, forgets his drumsticks at the car rental agency, but convinces everyone he will be back in time for the set. After rushing back to get the sticks, he runs a red light and is T-boned by a truck. Bloody, battered, and broken, he sprints away from the crash site, blinded by his own obsession, and takes the stage just in time. But for some odd reason, he's unable to perform. And for this reason, Fletcher tells him,
"You're done."
It's here that the full scope of Andrew's mania hits you like the truck that hit Andrew. He destroyed himself, and worst of all, from his point of view, he's not even going to achieve stardom. He'll spend the rest of his days living an unremarkable life, like his father. Andrew watches home videos of himself as a child when he still had that light in his eyes, and it's jarring and uncomfortable to watch as an audience. His talent and passion for drumming
At first I did love you,
have been infected by this parasitic desire to be great.
but I just wanna fuck.
As for To Pimp a Butterfly, the cost of Kendrick's ambition and greed is quite literally his eternal salvation, or lack thereof. On How Much a Dollar Cost, Kendrick recounts a story from his transformative trip to South Africa. At a gas station, he refuses a homeless man asking for $1 for food, thinking he'll just smoke it up.
I knew he was smoking, he begged and pleaded, asked me to feed him twice, I didn't believe it, told him beat it.
The man is insistent with his eyes, citing the Bible verse Exodus 14, which tells the story of Moses, a humble man chosen by God to save the Israelites from slavery. It would seem that Kendrick's humbleness has left in favor of selfishness and greed, which, according to his pre-enlightened mind,
My selfishness is what got me here, who the fuck I'm kidding?
He continually refuses the man, who reveals at the end of the track,
Nazareth, and I tell you just how much $1 cost. The price of having a spot in heaven, embrace your loss, I am God.
Kendrick further expands on his experience in South Africa on Mama, a song whose title can be interpreted as Motherland, supported by the repeated line,
The fact it brought me back home, especially to come back home.
Verse 2 of this track is about how this trip and this encounter with God taught him humility. He talks of all the things he thinks he knows before the trip.
I know loyalty, I know respect, I know those that's unreal, I know everything. The highs, the lows, the groupies, the junkies.
But he gives up that arrogant notion at the verse's conclusion.
Until I realized I didn't know shit the day I came home.
The outros of these two songs depict Kendrick asking forgiveness and guidance from God. He's been humbled and recognizes the Socratic truth that he knows nothing. He asks God to help him right his wrongs, calling back to all right.
My rights, my wrongs, I right till I'm right with God. When you know.
This righting of wrongs is a central theme of the album. From the emotional outpouring of You to his confessions of abusing his influence on These Walls, to his acts of gluttony on Wesley's Theory. But without a doubt, the biggest wrong he writes comes in The Blacker the Berry. Now, I don't have time to fully dissect this track, but there's ample evidence that it is rooted in truth.
I'm not gonna even say a few people think it's just talk and it's just rap. No, these are my experiences. When I say gang bang and make me kill a blacker than me, this is my life that I'm talking about. I'm not saying you might not even be from the streets.
Not every black person is in the gang.
Not in the
or
gang.
has that experience.
I'm not speaking to the community. I'm not speaking of the community. I am the community. Mm-hmm. My homeboys, those are my real homeboys on my album cover. They still over there. Mm-hmm. You know, no matter how much I want to bring them back and take them to other places, they still embody that. You know, that's them. So when I say these lines, it's for myself. This is therapeutic for myself because I still feel that urge and I still feel that anger and that hatred for this man next door because I got to get a call knowing that somebody around the corner done did this to my partner. I still feel it.
The Blacker the Berry is at once a celebration of Kendrick's blackness.
I'm African-American. I'm African. I'm black as the heart of a fucking Aryan.
And an enraged attack on white America.
You hate me, don't you? You hate my people. Your plan is to terminate my culture.
As it is a calling out of his own hypocrisy.
I'm the biggest hypocrite in 2015.
What hypocrisy does he refer to? Well, the final line about sums it up.
So why did I weep when Trayvon Martin was in the street? When gang banging make me kill a nigga blacker than me, hypocrite.
I encourage you to listen to the Dissect episode on this song if you want a more detailed analysis, because there's a whole lot that I'm leaving out. To Pimp a Butterfly eventually reaches a grand crescendo of positivity and self-love with I. While this makes it incredibly satisfying as a standalone album, it's not really lasting change. Really, it's more of a goal.
Who I am as a person, I'm not even gonna say my life. Who I am as a person is not the song I. That's who I want to be. Now you, loving you is complicated. That's my world. That's the frustration of the gang violence. That's what I come from.
Kendrick's unrealistic expectations for himself and for the impact of his music don't fade.
I feel like I can't breathe, look. I feel like I can't sleep, look. God, I'm talking fear. Fear that my humbleness is gone.
It isn't until his latest project, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, that we get some more context on his mental state during Damn's writing. His depression didn't leave, his vices returned, his relationships crumbled. But after several years, he finally accepts help and seeks therapy. And the result is a cathartic exploration and release of his trauma, shame, daddy issues, toxic masculinity, infidelity, ego, and eventually his self-acceptance. He asks his fans if they will be happy now that he's happy.
Smile on my face, but are you happy for me?
And that he's prioritizing himself, that he's broken a generational curse.
People don't like to look themselves in the mirror. That's the hardest thing to do. You know, it's to critique yourself rather than pointing the finger, you know, and everybody hates change. So to actually do that and say, I'm wrong in a lot of areas, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm saying I'm wrong in a lot of areas, that takes a lot of willpower, you dig what I'm saying? So it starts with self first.
I don't think the importance of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers can be overstated, and I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. This is a man speaking to a culture that would rather suppress trauma than address it. A culture that has dealt with historic levels of racism and depression, that is told rage is not an appropriate emotion to respond with. A culture that perpetuates hurt with more hurt. Like Damien Chazelle said,
I really do believe that, bullies beget bullies and abuse begets abuse.
To fly in the face of all that with an intense openness and realness about mental health is a massive step towards destigmatization. As with all of Kendrick's work, Mr. Morale is steeped in Black culture and his experience growing up in Compton. But in his words are lessons we all can learn about our own inner turmoil. Because at his core, Kendrick Lamar is a human. He is not a savior, he is not a messiah, he is not perfect. He is sensitive, he is self-aware, he is subject to missteps, and he is unapologetic. So if Kendrick breaks free of his greed and ambition, what happens with Andrew? Well, Fletcher is fired, first off, thanks to Andrew's testimony and another former student who commits suicide. But the story doesn't end there. He and Andrew meet once more at a jazz bar, where we hear the most direct addressing of Fletcher's philosophy.
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
Fletcher offers Andrew a part in a professional jazz band, but this is revealed to be a revenge plot.
You think I'm fucking stupid?
What?
I know it was you.
When they begin the performance with a song that doesn't match Andrew's sheet music, he predictably bombs and walks off stage humiliated, an unspoken question hanging in the air. Is this it? It would be a bittersweet ending. Despite all the abuse, if he calls it quits now, perhaps he could go on to lead a somewhat normal life and heal from his trauma. So what does he do?
I mean, the idea was to write the saddest happy ending I could imagine, sort of like, because it is true that Fletcher, in every single way, gets exactly what he wants at the end, and that to me is what hopefully makes the ending a little troubling. That that kind of behavior gets rewarded.
Now we're going to slow it down a little bit. I'm guessing most of you folks have heard of it.
Miles Teller described the look his father gave him during this performance, not as one of awe, but of horror. He sees the extent that drumming has come to dominate his life, and he knows his son will never escape his monstrous ambition. When asked what happens after the credits roll, Chazelle said, quote, "Fletcher will always think he won, and Andrew will be a sad, empty shell of a person and will die in his 30s of a drug overdose. I have a very dark view of where it goes." Ultimately, the question of whether or not this cost is worth it is left up to the viewer. Where is the line between greatness and humanity? Quote, "Life has never been as fleeting as it is today. Not just human life, but the world in general is becoming radically fleeting. Nothing promises duration or substance." I wanted to make this video because I think our culture has a toxic view of achievement and ambition. Every other self-help book you find or YouTube video is about how to be more productive, how to achieve your goals, how to be more driven. We place these wealthy and famous and ambitious people on a pedestal, thinking that they are the pinnacle of success. When are we going to realize that there's more to life than this arbitrary notion of success? When are we going to realize that the staircase we're climbing leads to exploitation, guilt, and burnout? Having dreams and working for them can be a great thing. I'm not trying to say that working hard isn't valuable, but I'd implore you to take a moment and really think about them. Are they your dreams, or are they dreams that you invented because you were told that you had to have dreams? Are they the American dream? A couple weeks ago, I watched this video called How to Think Originally. One of the key points in the video is about giving yourself time to think.
If your mind is constantly taking in information from a podcast, a video, a book, then it never gets a chance to rest and to process that information.
Everything about our society is set up for consumption without contemplation. TikTok, YouTube, podcasts, music, movies. All the platforms on which you consume these have some autoplay feature to keep you engaged, entertained, and most importantly, available to be served ads. Even books, what should be the pinnacle of learning, are commodified and turned into competitions. It's funny, I've been practicing mindfulness meditation for years, but I never thought to simply give myself structured space and time to think, to absorb. This video, for whatever reason, made other concepts that I've read click. The Taoist philosophy of non-action, the value of inactivity, the simple beauty in stillness. All of it made sense to me in this moment. In his book, Vita Contemplativa, Byung-Chul Han describes inactivity as, quote, not a weakness or defect, but rather an intensity, which is, however, neither seen nor acknowledged in our active and performance-driven society. We cannot access the riches of the realm of inactivity. Or, as Nietzsche said, quote, the active roll as a stone rolls, in obedience to the stupidity of the laws of mechanics. So I've begun to slow the content flood, to give my mind moments of rest while listening to music or podcasts, or after reading a chapter of a book, or finishing a movie, or before writing. And I must say that it's massively benefited my creativity. Mindfulness is powerful and can take many forms. It can also serve many purposes. Hirayama in Perfect Days admires the light streaming through trees and takes care of his plants every day. In Siddhartha, by Hermann Hesse, the titular character sits by a river and allows the river to speak to him and finds profound wisdom in this. Byung-Chul Han gardens, and Kendrick takes 30 minutes for himself every day.
To just sit back, close my eyes, and absorb what's going on, the space that I'm in. When you're in music, and everybody knows this, the years are always cut in half because we always have something to do. Whether we're in the studio for 4 months, that go by. Or now you gotta go on the road for 5 months, that go by. Next thing you know, 5 years done went by, and you're 29 years old, And for me now, I have to find a way to understand the space that I'm in and how I'm feeling at the moment. Because if I don't, it's going to zoom by. I know, I can feel, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. It just goes, and then you miss out on your moment because you were so in the moment, you didn't know the moment was going on. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do we escape the staircase of ambition? Through mindfulness, through the art of letting go. Quote, when someone seeks, then it happens all too easily that his eyes will see only the thing he is seeking, that he cannot find anything, cannot let anything in, because he is always thinking only of that thing he seeks, because he has a goal, because he is possessed by the goal. Seeking means having a goal, but finding means being free, being open, having no goal. And to me, too, who love life, it seems that butterflies and soap bubbles and whatever is like them among men know most about happiness. So find your inner butterfly, nurture it and allow it to flourish. Don't pimp it for your own ambition, but cultivate its power and wisdom. Break free from the cocoon of your rigid mind. Learn from others and from yourself. More than anything, accept the fact that you are enough as you are. And the only one who determines your self-worth is, well, yourself. In honor of this message, I'd like to invite you to pause this video for 1 or 5 or 10 minutes, however long you want, and reflect on what you've heard. Maybe a quote you liked, or a metaphor, or a takeaway, or even something you disagreed with. especially something you disagreed with. And when you're finished, write it down somewhere. You don't have to write it down in the comments, although I would like to know what you come up with. But whatever you do, just take a moment to actually be still with your thoughts rather than immediately clicking onto the next video and getting a little bit more dopamine, you know? Okay, ready? I hope you liked that. That was just a little something I wanted to throw in. Maybe I'll start doing it in the future if people like it. A few other housekeeping notes. I have an Instagram. I actually will ask questions related to my content, related to upcoming videos on there. So if you want to be involved in that, I am going to link that down below, also on screen right now. Just want to shout out my Substack. Some of my mini essays will go up on there. I'm not sure what it's going to turn into, but if you enjoy my videos, I think that will be a kind of a precursor to some of these videos. In fact, the first one was about the topic of ambition. I want to give some shout outs to some resources that helped me, and if you want to learn more about any of these topics, would highly recommend checking them out. First and foremost, the Dissect podcast. Season 1 is on To Pimp a Butterfly, and it's a track-by-track analysis. Highly recommend. It's very detailed, and I listened to this many, many years ago, and I think it kind of subconsciously set me down the path of appreciating art rather than just consuming it. And I also think that his analysis served as a foundation for this video. So shout out to Cole. These 3 channels have a great video or series of videos on Kendrick, and they also helped me out with some copyright questions. I contacted them, and they were kind enough to reply, so thanks to those 3. Quality Culture has a great video on Kendrick, which was part of the inspiration for me making my own video. I mentioned the Odyssey's video, How to Think Originally. He also has a great video called How to Write Mini Essays, or something about mini essays. I really liked it, and I've started employing its strategies. I think it's going to really elevate my writing, hopefully, you know. The initial seeds for the theme of ambition came from a episode of the Tao Te Ching for Everyday Living called Right-Sizing Ambition. And I also found this great video from Thomas Flight on the concept of ambition, which I'll link below. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you will consider subscribing, leaving a like, commenting, all that good stuff. And that's all I got. Peace and love, and I'll see you next time.